Habits are funny things, aren't they? And especially when it comes to food. We don't eat food because it provides us with nutrients. I mean, we do that too, but we eat food because it reminds us of a time or a meal with a family member, or it reminds us of a comfort that we felt once upon a time. Food is emotional. The habits that we have around food are more than just nourishing our body. If it was about just nourishing our body, our food habits would be completely different. But it's not just about nourishing our body, and our food habits are not completely different. Veganuary, Vegan January, is an opportunity to tune into our food habits and to modify and adjust them and experience a different way of eating. And that is exactly what we're going to be focusing on over these next few videos. So if you are curious about adopting a more plant-based or plant-forward or plant-predominant dietary pattern, stick around, because these videos, as well as my videos through January, are going to get you motivated and prepared and supported through Veganuary. Hello and welcome to, or welcome back to, the Simply CA. My name is Alana, and on this channel you are going to find tools, resources, information to live your best, most authentic, truest to you life. We do that through whole food plant-based eating and cooking. We do it through yoga and fitness videos, and we also do it through human design lifestyle coaching. If you enjoy this content, please remember to click on that little subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you know every time I post a new video. If you enjoy the content, please also give it a little thumbs up there so that I know what to continue to make. This video is going to be added to my Veganuary playlist, and on that playlist you are going to find already some information about my vegan / whole food plant-based / omnivorous / everything in between dietary journey. You will also find some information and a whole pantry staples video, this one, and then upcoming we will be doing some more meal prep, as well as I will be taking you with me on what I eat in a day videos throughout January. Not daily, but frequently compiled what I eat in a day so that you know how simple and easy eating whole food plant-based can actually be. Also, because I really don't recipe create very well, as in I don't usually measure ingredients, so it's really hard for me to just like, here's a recipe. Instead, I'm going to take you along for the journey as I make food and give you some ideas about how I adjust and figure out what levels of flavor to put into things. Okay, so down in the description box, you are going to find a link to a downloadable guide that's going to give you breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack ideas to get you started, as well as a full shopping list for those ideas. Get yourself ready before January 1st, because as we change these ingrained food patterns, it's really important to be prepared. So make sure that you grab that guide, and let's get into, before we get into going through that guide, I want to highlight something I said in my pantry staples? No. In my vegan journey, the very first video in this Veganuary series. I want to highlight something I said there. We are not simply taking out meat products, and dairy. If you do that, you're gonna go hungry. So don't do that. Make sure that you are creating whole, balanced meals that include all of the required nutrients and calories. Okay, so now we're gonna go over the recipes that I have provided for you down in that guide. And I'll just sort of showcase a couple pictures or some Instagram stories. Oh, by the way, if you do not follow me on Instagram, my Instagram stories are usually where I post the what I'm eating stuff. Follow me on Instagram and check out those stories as I move through the not YouTube filming side of things. So the first breakfast item is avo toast. because what else would it be? I use a really simple sourdough. However, a lot of gluten-free breads, I'm pretty sure Udi's is gluten-free and vegan. I simply toast it. I actually toast it in the frying pan. So good. I drizzle like the olive oil on it directly, or I put like vegan butter on it, and then I toast it so that the oils kind of like seep into the bread and get it really nice and crispy. Delightful. Oh gosh, oatmeal. I mean, come on, it's easy. I actually also really love using Bob's Red Mill Mighty Tasty Hot cereal. It's like a rice porridge with some other grains in it, and I way prefer it to just simple oatmeal. If you have watched my stories at all, hash is my thing. I love hash. So I use the Whole Foods brand 365 organic tater tots, potato puffs actually, and then I mushed them up, and they crumble and they break and they form these little pellets of potato, and they are so perfect for making a tofu hash. You can also, and more recently, Whole Foods hasn't had the organic potato puffs, so I've been using actual potatoes, cutting them up into cubes, frying them up in some oil. You don't really need much more than that, and then adding in the rest of the flavors. It's easy. It works for breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, supper, whatever. It's a great meal, and it's super versatile as well. You can throw whatever you've got in it and change up the flavor profile, and it's just a really great base, and it has every component of my formula for a complete whole meal. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't also include a smoothie. So my basic smoothie recipe, I cut up bananas when they are ripe. I peel them, cut them in half, and then I pop them into the freezer. So whenever I want a smoothie, I just pull out half of a banana, some frozen fruit. I personally use unsweetened cashew milk. You can totally make a smoothie without the plant milk, just use some water. I also find that a fortified rice milk is really good, but rice milk is much thinner than most other plant milks, so it works really nicely in a smoothie if you want the creaminess without it being overwhelmingly thick. And then if you are someone who loves to have a thicker, like more dessert-like smoothie, totally go for yogurt. And then really it's whatever else you want. So sometimes I'll do like a tropical fruit blend with vanilla vegan protein powder and some nut butter, and that makes a really like beautiful combination. I also think that smoothies are the prime opportunity to get your additional greens. That could be in a greens powder, or it could be with frozen greens or fresh greens if you have them around. One of the things I sometimes will do is I will buy kale. I will de-stalk the kale, so I'll peel it off of its stalk and then pop that into the freezer in a container. That way it's just always available to me. So for an acai bowl, aside from the acai pack, the only difference with it from making a smoothie is to cut down on the amount of liquid. The way to make an acai bowl is to use that tamper. So you want to make sure that you're not adding too much liquid, and in order to get it to actually like blend, just use your tamper to make sure that you're distributing the stuff. And if you need a splash more liquid, go ahead and do that, but you really don't want to over liquid your smoothie bowl. The only other thing to note for the acai bowl when it comes to making it vegan is obviously you're not going to drizzle some honey on top of it. And when you're purchasing a granola, just make sure that that granola doesn't have a honey in it. I've said this before, I am typically not completely vegan. I tend towards vegan, and I believe in being vegan, and I think that the most important thing that we can all do is to trend towards more whole food plant-based, both for our personal health as well as the health of our planet and our planet home. Use this as a platform to trend more towards vegan, trend more towards whole food plant-based. And if that means that you have a splash of honey, or if you purchase something that has a little bit of something in it, that's okay. The whole purpose here isn't for you to be 100% perfect. It's for you to trend in the direction of. Which leads me to probably the most vegan, gluten-free, health nut, whatever of all of this. Tofu on toast, or tofu on a rice cake. For lunch, I've got a black bean quinoa salad. I've also done this with black beans and my bean noodles. So if you've checked out my pantry video, you saw my love for my bean noodles. You can also use rice noodles or anything else really, but I'm really trying to, in this little recipe guide, give you a whole bunch of different options so that you're not relying solely on one thing or another. You are also going to notice that I do rely fairly heavily on tofu, and that's because, one, it's super easy to use, two, it's highly available everywhere, and three, it is more processed. And so if you are transitioning from a non-whole food plant-based diet to a more whole food plant-based diet, you might not want to overdo it on the really strongly fibrously delightful foods. Instead, sort of like sprinkle them in and eat more processed vegan food. It'll just be more comfortable for many people, unless you have a soy allergy, and then go for the not tofus. So on my website, you can find a 1-minute Instant Pot quinoa recipe. I've also included how I do my black beans in the Instant Pot, but you can 100% just buy cans of black beans. And then I have a few different options for some dressings in this recipe. So go ahead, play around, or you can also use the Caesar dressing that is being made for this next recipe, which is a chicken Caesar wrap. I personally use the Gardein chicken patties. They also have chicken tenders. They're great. They are not gluten-free, but other than that, they have a good texture, they've got a good taste, they've got a nice breading, they're widely available, and you know what? Sometimes a little fake meat is what's necessary. So I wanted to include that in here because I just wanted it to be simple and accessible, and that's one of the really easy ones that you can whip up and go straight to. You could also do it as a chicken Caesar salad if you don't want the tortilla version. So easy. Okay, so next up is sort of like a quesadilla situation. So you just take your wrap, lay it on your frying pan, spread some hummus or use some vegan cheese or black beans or like some refried beans, some vegetables. I usually use some like really finely chopped broccoli, and this one has some green peppers in it. And then sometimes I'll like sprinkle some vegan cheese on top if I've got it. If I don't have it, I just omit it, to be completely honest. Until I discovered the Violife cheese, I either omitted cheese, I made my own cashew like cream cheese version, or like a tofu ricotta or a tofu feta, but I really just omitted cheese a lot of the time. I found it easier to omit than try to replace it with something that didn't measure up. If you have it nearby, and if you really feel like if cheese is the thing that's gonna stop you, check out the Violife. And of course, like, I'm not big enough. This is not sponsored. This is not anything. This is just what works for me. This is the one that I found, so I'm sharing it. So again, breakfast and lunches, I usually create one meal out of them. So the final one that I've got here for like a lunch type meal is leftover rice getting turned into a fried rice situation. So what I'll usually do is, or what I've recently started doing, is I'll sort of like finely slice my tofu into these little tiny strips, and that sort of creates egg ribbons, if you will. You can totally crumble your tofu or chop it into small cubes, but I'm really enjoying the different texture and the different mouthfeel of having them in these little tiny strips. I will be taking you through actually making a lot of these dishes as I do the what I eat in a day, but I want you to be prepared, so I'm just giving you the lay of the land right now. Getting warm filming. Okay, next up, we've got my pad thai-like situation. It's not pad thai. I'm not even gonna pretend it's pad thai, but that's the best explanation for it, so that's what we're gonna call it. I use my handy dandy bean noodles, but you can always use something else instead. Slice up the tofu, start frying that up in a pan while the bean noodles are soaking in some boiling water. Then all the same components, garlic, ginger, add in some chili garlic sauce, your vegetables, and then mix together your tamari. If you have sweet soy sauce, if you have some vegan fish sauce, go for it. Pour that over top of the noodles when they're cooked with everything else. Develop the flavors, pop it all together. If you want to make it more peanutty or nut buttery-y, then go ahead and throw in a scoop of a nut butter of your choice and stir it up and serve. The peanut tofu bowl has a little bit more stuff going on. The entire recipe is on my website, which is linked in the downloadable guide, but definitely make this meal. For the tofu, I love to bake it. So I cube it, throw it into the oven, usually 350, 375. It'll crisp up around the edges. I also love this type of like bowl situation for families. So if your family isn't doing Veganuary with you, doing these bowls is a brilliant way of creating a meal that everyone can enjoy together, but everyone has different elements and different components. I am going to suggest though that you encourage your family to try your vegan version as much as possible, because these recipes are, one, easy, two, really full of flavor. So give it a try, because a lot of the times people just have a preconceived idea versus actually trying it. So give it a whirl, see if they'll bite. I also strongly believe that spaghetti is a fantastic way of swapping out meat. Make your normal spaghetti sauce, but instead of putting in meat, use crumbled tofu or a vegan ground. Something else that works really well is making up some lentils and then using those. I am going to say though that the lentils have a stronger flavor profile and they soak up more flavor. So if you are going to use lentils, make sure that you're tasting your sauce and add a little bit more flavor and spice to it than you might normally do. In the guide, I do actually have my favorite spaghetti sauce recipe, as well as the spaghetti sauce that I love to use. Okay, mac and cheese. I have tried so many variations of mac and cheese, and I think this one is probably what I consider to be my favorite, and this is short of using vegan cheese and melting it, because one, I've never actually done that. Two, as I said earlier, I don't really love vegan cheese. And three, what I love about this particular one is it doesn't seem like you're eating a plate full of vegetables, but you're eating a plate full of vegetables. And what's better than that? It's also completely whole food, plant-based. Like, this recipe is so good when it comes to what's in it. So the one that I have sort of pieced together over the years is a combination of almost everything that everyone else uses. I use some cashews, some cauliflower, potatoes, carrots, and onion, and you steam that up. And then put that with some of the steaming liquid into a blender. Add in your spices, a little bit of nutritional yeast if you want it, some turmeric if you want even more of that orange color. If you want it to be a little bit smokier, add in some smoked paprika instead of some regular paprika. If you want a little spicy, add in a little cayenne. If you want it super strong and garlicky, throw in a garlic clove. If you don't want it super strong and garlicky, use a little bit of garlic powder and onion powder, and then just blend it up. It is all of your vegetables. Oh, and add in a little tiny bit of lemon juice for a zing. I also discovered you can use either a little squeeze of mustard, or if, like my family, your family doesn't like mustard at all, throw in a little tiny bit of miso paste, and it gives it that umami flavor, that like that cheese gives you. The other thing I really love about this one is it's not super dense. It's rich without being dense. Give it a try. Let me know in the comments when you try it, and let me know what you think about it, because I personally really like it. And finally, for the last dinner recipe, I've just thrown in some simple enchiladas. And this one, I don't have an enchilada sauce. I haven't even tried to make an enchilada sauce. I just use a green vegan enchilada sauce from Simply Organic. I pre-cook some vegetables with a little bit of cumin, and then put in some refried beans, sprinkle on the veggies, roll it up, put it in the oven with the enchilada sauce, pull it out, and you've got dinner. I've actually also done this as like an enchilada casserole, where I've layered it and poured the enchilada sauce like I would a lasagna type situation. So that works as well. In the next video, I'm going to show you prepping up some snacks. So I love to have, and if I'm being really on it, I like to prep my vegetables, have them sitting in mason jars in water, and I like to have some dips around. Truth be told, I haven't done that recently, but my intention for Veganuary is to have some hummus, some white bean dip, some vegetables, and you know what? Some chips hanging around, just so I've got some snacks to keep me going when I don't have the time or the capacity to pull something out. In the description box, there is a link to download this recipe guide, as well as the entire shopping list for it. Use that shopping list, get yourself ready to go. Also, in my vegan pantry staples, I've got an entire this is what's in my cupboards. These are the products that I typically use. This is just what I have around. And I also have an entire formula as to how I intuitively put together meals. So definitely check that out as well. And let me know down in the comments what you are excited for, what is your why for doing Veganuary, what you're looking forward to, and let's have a conversation down in the comment section. Also, let me know if you have any questions about any of this, and I will see you in the next video when we start getting into the meal prep and actually some of the cooking.